Hi, this is Randy. Welcome to Roundcast. I've had a lot of young people tell me that their prayer life seems to be unfruitful, that it's dried up, that they're not even sure that there's a God in heaven who's answering their prayers. It's something we all go through, whether we know how to express it or not. And it's a threefold thing. And I'm going to address that over the next few podcasts. The first one is to know God, to be able to even fathom that you have an opportunity to know God's a pretty deep thing. That's especially when the Scripture says, "My ways are higher than your ways, and my knowledge is higher than your knowledge." So, but we can still get into a situation where we can begin to grow and build bridges in our knowledge of God. And that's what I'm hoping to attempt in your prayer life today. There was a young lady years ago that we went out on a retreat, and the topic was prayer. And we were talking about prayer and the process of prayer, and it's quite in depth. There's a lot to it. And she caught me somewhere in the retreat, and she cornered me off to the side, and she said, "Today I talked to the air twice." Her background had no church. She didn't have any exposure to any spiritual things. So to her, when she began to talk to God, the only way she could express it is, "I talked out loud to the air today." It's deeper than that. It's something than just sending it up to the air. You're sending it to an individual. It's like passing a note in class. You're sending it to a person. Somebody on the other side of that is going to read what you've sent them. And basically, that's a knowledge. That's a building of something between you. So when you pray, you're literally not trying to sell God on the fact of knowing you. He created you. He knows you. What you're doing is building a bridge that you're getting to know Him and His ways and be able to connect to Him in a more spiritual way. It's a knowledge thing. When I started dating my wife before we got married, it wasn't something where I just picked her up on a street corner or out in a club or any of that. We got to know each other. We literally worked very hard in communicating, and I wanted to get to know her, and she wanted to get to know me. There was a knowledge base that was taking place. It wasn't just all of a sudden we're trying to battle each other or mold each other into our own image. It was getting to know each other, and that was part of the excitement of the dating process. Well, that's prayer, where you're reaching up to God and you're praying all things. The Scripture says, "Bring all things to me in prayer." So no matter what you're bringing, God is there receiving it on the other end. Too often in our prayer lives, we treat it like a candy list or a Christmas list, or we only approach God in moments of crisis. When you get to know God, that's a daily thing. You're actually spending time in communicating with God. It's not just, "Well, I need you now, I'm in a crisis," or "I've got all these things on my sugar list that I want you to fulfill." That's not knowing God. That is just praying to the air. That's just sending it out there into nowhere land. God very much cares that you would connect with Him in knowing Him. And it's through that consistency that you will begin to discover on your journey into the next phase that knowing God gives way to loving God, which I'll talk to you about next week. But knowing God is consistent every day in your life, moving forward with every issue in your life and building a relationship with Him. He already knows you. Do you know Him?